I'm Ryan Girdusky here with Red Alert Politics, and I have Jack Hunter and Matt Purple from Rare.us. Thank you guys for being here.
Anytime.
So
Absolutely.
I wanted to have like a flashback. 2007, there was an old principled guy from a remote area of the country who was exciting young people across the country, and his name was Ron Paul. And now that seems to, and it was about a principled libertarian message.
Right.
Now we have the same thing, but it's with a principled socialist message. Do you think that the country has changed? Do you think this is just a celebrity thing? What's going on? You know, is this as meaningful as Kim and Kanye's marriage, or is there like a real thing going on?
I think it's probably a combination of things. You know, Ron Paul changed the complexion of CPAC, I would say from about 2009, after his first presidential campaign in 2008, until this one.
Yeah.
You don't see the young liberty kids, a lot of young people, and we'll see what happens with the straw poll and everything else, but you don't see the sort of liberty presence that we saw in the years between Ron Paul running in 2008 and this Trump-dominated, Bernie Sanders-dominated election. Was it a fad? Was it a fluke? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have shown that people are ready for some sort of drastic change. And who knows, would Ron Paul have been the nominee in a year like 2016 in a way that never would have happened in 2012 or 2008? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
People don't have faith in their institutions anymore. I think it's a really big part of it. They don't trust not just the government, which Ron Paul really channeled and appealed to, that populist libertarian message, but also Wall Street, also the banks, also the school system in a lot of way, even the military to a certain extent. They're more skeptical of foreign interventions than they used to be. So I think what the question is, who is going to channel that, and with what message are they going to do it?
Yeah.
And Ron Paul's answer was that libertarianism. Bernie Sanders' answer is a populism that I think actually borrows just a little bit, a couple parcels here and there from Ron Paul, and he's seeing results as a result of that up in places like Vermont and New Hampshire.
Sure.
Yeah, because Ron Paul did channel a bit of the Bernie Sanders thing, which is anti-interventionism, criticisms on government intervention in the market, Wall Street and stuff like that.
Cronyism.
So, do you think maybe Ron Paul's time just didn't come yet, and like it's still that libertarian moment still to come, and he was just the wrong timing, and it's
Look, I still think it is, and I'll even go a step further. We're here at it's CPAC, the largest gathering of conservatives in the country. If we still care about what you hear come off of every speaker here's lips, Barry Goldwater, Ronald Reagan, limited government. A lot of people are like, what's this Trump stuff? He's not a limited government guy. Well, guess what? Neither was Mitt Romney, neither was John McCain, and every other Republican. Right. So, let's not pretend like we've stood for these things for years and years and years, and all of a sudden Trump just threw us a wrench. Right. That's not what happened. The libertarian faction within the Republican Party is more serious and devoted to those small government principles that have been the defining things in the American conservative movement for decades, more than any other faction. So if that's going to be true again, they damn well better start going in a more libertarian direction, because that's the only way that's going to happen.
I would say, too, we just got off lunch talking to a guy, random run-of-the-mill average Joe from Vermont, who kind of lines up with us, a little bit libertarian, but it's a Democrat who's probably going to win up there. He says, I will not vote for Hillary Clinton. I am dead set against Hillary Clinton. I could vote for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Now, most people in this town, that makes their heads explode, because how do you wrap your mind around that? A socialist rather than a moderate Democrat, and you probably center-right, what makes sense? It's not about, I think, libertarian necessarily or conservatism necessarily. People are angry, like I said before, at big institutions, at the establishment, so to speak, and they want a candidate who's going to shake that up. And I think, again, Ron Paul with the limited government message spoke to that. Somebody like Marco Rubio, who is, an institutional conservative, somebody like Mitt Romney, who is an institutional conservative, they can't compete this year, because this is not their year. It's a completely foreign environment. People are looking to tear up their system. They're looking to scratch and claw, and that's not something that those two guys bring to the table. Or Ron Paul does, or Bernie Sanders does. That's why you see, our friend out there who thinks Bernie Sanders is something worthwhile to say.
Yeah, well, I usually have lunch at a food pantry, but I meet a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters there, and I actually interviewed like about 30 or 40 at a rally in New York. And I would say half said there is no way I'll ever vote for Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And they're just disenfranchised, looking for something to believe in. And do you think that Bernie kind of maybe is something to believe in now, the way that Ron Paul was something to believe in?
I think so, but I think we make a mistake when we ascribe people's motives for supporting Sanders or even Donald Trump to ideas and ideology. I think it's a tone. I think it's an anti-establishmentarianism that they're attracted to. I don't think, we see a lot of people who supported Ron Paul who are either in the Trump or Sanders camp, which ideologically logically does it make any sense? So I think the idea that, a lot of people here are depressed that, Trump has done as well. Some are not. Some are depressed that Bernie Sanders, that this open socialist is doing as well. Don't get that depressed. This is not about ideas. It's really not. But I will say this. Ron Paul, when he became popular, and his son, Senator Rand Paul, when he filibustered and swung public opinion on drones by 50%, that was idea-based. That wasn't the flashiest guy around. It is amazing in this election that a guy who's as anti-establishment as Rand Paul is now the establishment by comparison because he's a senator and Donald Trump's way crazier.
Right.
That's where we're at, but it's not ideas-based. It's perception-based, and perception is reality.
So one of the biggest things I think came out of the Ron Paul revolution, was Senator Rand Paul, Justin Amash, Thomas Massey, to a lesser degree Jeff Flake. I mean, to a lesser degree, there was a new generation of elected officials that tilted more on privacy, on national security.
People like Raul Labrador, Mick Mulvaney, who've started going more libertarian direction.
Right. They just changed. There was a slight change in the new generation, the young gun generation.
Sure.
Do you think that will continue? Do you think that moment had passed? Is there anyone people who read Rare are really excited about that are like young and running? Besides, I always hear Justin Amash, Thomas Massey every single day. Is there anyone new that is going on right now that you've heard of?
I think if you gauge millennial attitudes, it kind of has to. If the conservative movement's going to survive, the Republican Party is going to survive and thrive.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make that prediction because nobody predicted that Donald Trump might be the inevitable nominee.
Right.
But if you look at the polling, you look at millennial attitudes, and they're going to be the largest voting bloc in the very near future, some things are going to have to change. Today's conservative movement, today's Republican Party do not speak to them.
Yeah, I think that right now everything is up in the air and is up for grabs, right? The old establishment has failed. It's fallen to the side. The question is, there was somebody who said, a city councilor back in 1968 who says, don't ever tell me that we're not in a revolution. We are in a revolution. Now the question is who's going to win it. And that's the question right now. Is it going to be the more old school economic populism that's proffered by Donald Trump? Is it going to be the Tea Party, which has a more of a libertarian bent to it, which has guys like Amash behind it, has guys like Massey and like Mick Mulvaney? It's very hard to say. Those of us who pick sides in that, one particular side or the other, we're going to have to fight for our right to party kind of coming up here. I mean, we're going to have to fight
which
for
is in
every
the Bill of
seat
Rights.
coming up in Congress. It is in the Bill
Who
of
reads
Rights.
that?
Yeah.
As long as I have Us Weekly, I'm okay.
We just got two Tea Party.
What new projects are you expecting from Rare? What is Rare up to that we can look forward to?
Rare Politics is on the cusp of what we just talked about. I think things are going to have to change on the American right. We're center-right publication, and part of that is saying, a lot of things are wrong with the right.
Yeah.
Some things are good about the left, and it's not. I think with this whole Trump thing, we're beyond, I hope at this point, the left's destroying the country, and the right's just peachy cream, and everything's fine. Well, obviously it's not if Donald Trump's doing as well as he is.
Yeah.
Rare, we sort of speak to that. We are a little bit more youth-oriented. We're certainly liberty-oriented. I think that's where things are heading.
All that, and then we're also adding a new centerfold section coming up next
That's
month.
right.
Jack and I will be
fantastic.
prominently featured in.
Yeah.
So
They were in last
Oiled
year.
up, shirtless.
Rare.us, we got some oil, we got some other stuff. It'll be really
Great.
good.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Matt, for being here.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely.